Well, welcome back, everyone, to the 110 Football Instant Reactions. This is my reaction. I am kind of speechless after that one. What a doozy that game ended up being. Vince, I was sitting right next to you. I saw your genuine reaction. So where's your head at right now?
I'm mad at a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
I'll just get it out. Mine off the top, the refereeing was weird all day. I don't think we can ultimately say that that was the full reason for
sure.
this kind of demise. I mean, a draw, that's a demise. But look, when I see a referee arguing with a player on where he can go off to the side immediately to bring the player back on the field, those little things drive me wild because it makes me understand that these referees do not necessarily get the essence of the game and what it is. They're just trying to do something out there or trying to be boss out there. And then obviously you let the play run and then you kick off and then blow the whistle. It's like, so is this all arbitrary? Are we letting attacks go until they're going to go to their end? Not to say that LAFC should not have held on to that lead and ended that game, because definitely that was a moment where you can clear that, you can deal with that, and you should. Pretty decent shot from Dotson. I will give him credit on that.
And I mean, games don't come down to one moment. This one definitely feels like it did. But Jess, what are your thoughts on this one?
It feels like a loss.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're so close to winning the game, you're literally 30 seconds away from, us having a conversation about how we just nicked it, but we can go on to next week and try to get 3 more points. We're talking about dropping 2, so it's difficult just because you're just like, it feels like a big downer. I have a hard time figuring out what are the positives from this game because, quite frankly, I felt like it was pretty bad, but I really would have loved to have been able to sit down with you two and kind of just talk about how we got away with it rather than this where now we have to kind of nitpick. And
Like, I didn't want to talk about tactics.
Yeah.
The tactics were good. I didn't want to talk about the possession because the possession wasn't good.
And that game just at the ending felt like a roller coaster. I mean, Izzy in the chat, we're right there with you. We feel the same way that you're feeling. And it was, this one started to feel decent. It was a little bit of an ugly win up until right there. And I agree with you, Jess. This one just felt like a loss. And so now, Vince, how does the team take this and just move forward?
Oh, I think this is like one of those moments where generally you probably go in the locker room and you some guys go get treatment, some guys do some things, maybe there's a little thing. This is maybe a moment where everyone's got to just say, no, hold off on what you're doing. Everyone come together right now. Like, what is happening?
I mean, this might truly be a turning point for the season. One of the things that struck me the most right at the end of the game was, in understandable fashion, several of the players just sat on the field, just distraught.
Angered,
I mean, it's an emotional moment. I just really feel like they, like Vince said, they need to sit down and figure out what's going on. This is like 3 or 4 games now where we're talking about a team that should be performing a lot better, and they're just not really clicking. I think there's questions about maybe some of Bob's formations and tactics as well. So they need to pull together. And again, there needs to be voices in that locker room pulling that team together. And who are those voices right now? It has to be Carlos Vela. It has to be Atuesta. It has to be whoever's ready to step up, because leaders, they need to show up now.
And Neko in the chat said that he's done with Bob. So Vince, what's your take on that?
A lot of people have said that for a long time. I can't be all on Bob. I do. Look, the formation is set up in a way that maybe I don't personally agree with it. I know Jess has her thoughts on it, how it can be better. And look, for sure it can be better. I would prefer a change to 4-3-3. I just think that this game was crying out for it. The spaces, just the positional aspect of it, it was not there. The triangles were not there. The ability to move the ball from inside to outside, from tight spaces to areas where you're open. There was never really openings, and that was very sloppy. Now, I believe, and you look at a lot of teams that are changing coaches and having to rechange coaches again and again, like Atlanta United. I do think Bob can still figure it out, but more so, I think we see Mark Anthony Kaye has been traded. Guys should see that and realize I'm not untouchable. Because maybe there needs to be some more personnel moves, because if you're going to stay 5-3-5-2, 5-3-2, there's going to have to be some tactical changes and some positional switches. And if you're not, I still think there's going to have to be people to come back in for that 4-3-3 to work.
Yeah, for sure. And some of the words that I wrote down, when I was watching the game was stagnant, stale, predictable. And for me, that means maybe some changes need to come about. And I mean, we were talking about roster shakeups, you know, earlier, and it might be time, you guys. I really do think that something needs to change because it just great players, good system. It just needs something fresh.
But Jess, you know, touching again on the formation, we have people in the chat that are clearly frustrated with the formation that they're choosing, but they're consistently going back to it. What are they seeing or hoping to get out of this current formation?
Well, I mean, when we first saw it, we were creating a lot of chances, and I
Correct.
still think we're creating chances.
Right.
My issue at this point is just people are starting to figure it out, and we're unable to make changes on our own without the coach making changes. So
That's fair.
if they're unable to make changes on the pitch amongst each other, then maybe this is not a system that's suitable for this group. Maybe they're more comfortable in a 4-3-3. Maybe they can make their own changes on the pitch when things aren't going right in a 4-3-3. So maybe it's just not working for them. They're getting in good positions, but maybe just holistically it's not the right thing. So maybe they do need to pivot to something else. If
Yeah,
they
maybe
can't-
it's the personnel.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they're just not suited for it.
So, you know, Vince, moving along here, we do still do our headlines. So give me what yours was for tonight's match, Vince.
Losing without losing ×2. Because it's now Vancouver, where that felt like a loss without losing, although they were able to scrap the point.
Yep.
This was where you had it in your grasp, and it feels like this one feels way worse.
Right.
It really does feel
The
way
carrot,
worse.
the carrot was dangling there, and they just couldn't grab it.
You're dropping points from winning situations, which has
Right.
been LAFC's biggest thing this year. I think from a winning situation, I think at one point we were like 12 points from a winning situation. So now this is now 14 points from a winning situation, if not more. And that was way back a little ways ago. So from winning situations, think of where like 10 of those points could have you in the standings.
Right.
Not even all the full 14. Like sometimes it just doesn't happen for you.
Yeah.
But to continue to be up late in games and not be able to hold it, and I'm going to pass this to you, Jess. Is it holding it, or is it not being able to capitalize it? I am very much in the not being able to capitalize on it.
I think it's not being able to capitalize because when you dominate like 70%, 80% of the game, it's on you to take advantage of the situations that you're in. So for me, it's more not capitalizing than actually dropping the ball, really.
To not have a third goal is just
Yeah.
it is getting comical.
Right, and a big piece of this, I personally watching this, we've talked about them feeling out of sync, and a big part of that is Rossi. We've people in the chat talking about this, that Rossi has just felt missing. Why is that, Jess?
Oh, well, we might want to wait until we get to my stock falling section because
Oh, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you on stock falling.
Rossi is, the title of the chapter there.
Well, I'm going to
We'll
say
get there.
on Friday, you and I are going to be at the touchscreen, and we are going to be talking about Diego Rossi. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it because I might have to bring that into what I'm going to bring on Friday. To
Right.
the
So
big show.
make sure that you tune in Friday to our big show because not only are we going to be talking the trade, we're going to be talking tonight's game, what Vince was just talking about, more to come on all of that. So continuing on, Jess, give us your headline.
Well, my headline is might as well change the name of the team from LAFC to TMT-MC. And TMT is too many touches. Too many touches FC.
Right.
Every single person that touched the ball wanted to touch it more and touch it more and touch it more. And it's just, we're doing the absolute most, and I don't really understand why. And it just leads me to believe that there's something wrong with the confidence of the players, the
Right.
system. They are standing. So when you're standing, you don't actually see the passing lane, so you have to take more touches to try to figure out where you're going to go. Kim, I love him. Too many touches
Not
on
his
the
best
ball.
game.
Tristan, too many touches. Everybody. So for me, it's just go back to basics, 1 to 2 touches, keep it simple. And that was really the theme of what I talked about before the game. But I mean, maybe I didn't say it loud enough. You guys, less touches, keep it simple.
Yeah,
Maybe I
and-
need to pass my notes.
And that really plays into them playing out of sync as well.
But the formationally, positionally, like this is, even though it's a different formation, it's still going to be a positional system, but you are in slightly different starting points. And I see exactly what you see. And I said to somebody, it almost seems like the next pass is not obvious. And I don't mean obvious as in like we just know where it's going to go and they
Right.
can pick it off. I mean like these guys are getting the ball and then they're looking and the angles aren't the same.
It's hard to get to.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to get to the next pass.
Right.
Very hard. And they're out of sync.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's what it comes down to. And, that really folds in line with my headline being consistency is not always key. I know that that's something that kind of maybe sounds weird in the moment, but this team, without fail, is consistent. But that's not the greatest thing right now. Week in and week out, we're starting to know what we're going to get out of this LAFC team, and it's not the results that we're happy with. It can't be the results that that locker room is happy with. We want to see them get over this hump. We want to see them get to 3 goals, and for a little bit tonight, it felt like they were going to do that, but then they just fell back into old habits, whether that's playing down to their opponent rather than just taking on being superior. But all in all, consistency isn't always key.
And you know who else knows what kind of LAFC they're going to get? Is the opposition.
Right.
We're so predictable now. I think people know our book. They know what they're looking forward to. So I completely agree with what you're saying. So back to the drawing board for Bob and the boys. You know, they got to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, they're just kind of positionally, like, again, they're set out in spaces where teams can say, all right, well, that's fine that you have this extra width, but what are you going to do with it? Like, where are you getting extra width? Where are you getting that, what is that starting point for you that you're able to capitalize on that? And LAFC is not just going to basically send out wing backs to say just cross the ball, because that's not the way they play. But then when they are trying to play from outside to in, like we've said, it's either too many touches, it's not quick enough, the spaces that they have to traverse are too big, or with the 2-forward system, they're just not in the same spots that you need them to be in. And Sifu's also having to try to, split his time as sometimes a midfielder to help out. Sometimes he's right underneath the guy. Sometimes he's in a wide area. I don't know how you can play a positional system when no one seems comfortable in any of the positional spots.
Right. Well, and we even have Robert in the chat who is saying that he doesn't believe Farfan is a good center back. So what are you guys thinking? And, tell Robert.
I thought he was okay. I don't know if this is on him or if this is the system. If you have 3 center backs, you usually have an extra guy in possession, especially when you're building.
Okay.
Use those center backs. Get forward. Get into different positions. I felt like they were too timid to carry the ball forward. Again, if you have wing backs and you don't use them, well, then what's the point of having wing backs? If you have 3 center backs and you don't use them, what's the point of having 3 center backs? So I don't know if that's what they've been told. I will say Marco did play it a little safe.
Yeah.
I thought he was gutsy in moments. But yeah, he
also comes with Eddie Segura being missing as well. Yeah. Like, he's a key member of the squad. I think it showed up again and again and again today. And then Bob, for some reason, took Murillo out as well, and that just threw things off. So I don't think it's so much that Farfan's not a good center back. I just think we're missing Eddie Segura, which is something that we touched on earlier.
Eddie's passing range is super underrated.
Yeah.
Like, super underrated. I mean, he does not get any credit from anyone across the league, and sometimes we forget about it just because he's so steady at everything else that he does. But that passing range, I guess to your point and to the viewer's point about Marco Farfan, he's no Eddie Segura when it comes to passing the ball, so we can't expect him to all of a sudden step up and be hitting those long balls or pinging diagonals like Eddie.
Right, so we do want the fan base to still remember we do have Eddie Segura still on this roster. He will come back. That is a bright spot. So let's talk about some other bright spots in this one. Vince,
what bright spots?
There were some.
We might have
had to dig a little harder for him tonight, but nonetheless, stock rising. What'd you have?
Substitutions.
Okay.
I.e., could we make some more? We made 1 substitution the entire match. I understand you have the weekend off, so you have another week to get back fit.
It's supposed to be positive.
Yeah, so I was like, this is your twist.
Yeah, stock rising, substitutions, like you're looking at substitutions now, you're saying we should use those.
Oh, okay. So this is a learning rising.
Yeah, it's like if everything's down, that stock is flying up because they're like, oh,
you
man.
You had to dig deep to make this a positive spin.
I'm trying here. But they made 1 substitution after playing 2 times in a week.
So this is a learning moment. We're taking the stock rising as a learning moment here.
Yeah, I mean, just
a remix stock rising. We'll just let you go with it.
Use the bench when you can. I know that they're gonna have a week off. They have this weekend off, so you want them to give everything. And again, seconds away. Yes. So it's not like but you saw it at the game as the game ends. The guys just flat on their butts on the floor. They were absolutely gassed. So maybe just an injection of something, or I don't know, kill time.
Right. And I mean, Max is in the chat telling us that Murillo came off with a hamstring issue, which is not going to help us by any means. So what is that going to look like now moving forward? How is the team going to be able to regroup and figure that situation?
I hope you're okay.
Please come back.
Right. Everyone needs to be sending all their good vibes and energy in that direction. But trying to stay positive here, okay, for just a brief second. So Jess, stock rising, what'd you have?
So you guys, this was my first time at at the bank, you know, in
Right.
person.
This was Jess's first game in person, which is
yeah,
awesome.
it's my first game, and obviously through the television you can hear the 32-52, but I felt them today, and I'm gonna be completely honest, you guys. Some of the game was really boring. So for me,
It's fair. It's fair
32-52,
assessment.
them keeping the tunes up, the drums and the singing and all of that, I just think when you experience it in person, you really see how special it is. And so I have to give them a special shout out, and they are my stock rising. You know, they were a bright spot for me, really.
Oh, wow. LAFC.
Next step is getting Jess in the 32-52 to really experience
I would
You have
love
not
that.
experienced,
Yes. All right,
yes,
next
you have
step.
not experienced an LAFC game until you've had beer just poured all over you. I will tell you that.
Sounds smelly, but great.
A little bit.
You know, I'm not a beer person, but I would love to hang out with the 32-52, and they're just, man, you don't really see that very often. I mean, you could just see that there's like heart and soul there. They really feel connected to the team, and that's special. You know, you can't really take that
I know
away.
they continued to chant well into the end of the match, which I was like, hey, props to you guys for continuing to cheer these fellas on.
When they're scoring goals and that beer's flying, you don't even care.
It's
Okay.
actually
you don't
incredible.
care.
It's
You
actually
don't
incredible.
care.
And so my stock rising for tonight is Sifu. I was impressed with his performance, and I think if anything, this continues, this should give him the confidence, as well as the rest of the team, that they did win this trade, that they are going to be okay with this trade, and I believe that he should, you know, get the most confidence out of it, just moving forward, like, hey, you're in a good situation, now let's build on this.
I would really love to see him with a more defined role. I know he has a
Right.
super free role. I don't know how you feel about it, Jess. He obviously has the talent to put a team on his back. He's difficult to dispossess. He has a great shot. He's a decent passer, and can fill in some spots and can really also help you in the press when he's farther forward. But I more defined role maybe.
I actually think the opposite. I think that he's better in a free role because one of his I guess his superpowers is finding space. I actually don't think he's that good of a passer, and I don't really think that that's like what you really want him to do. You want him getting into the box and being like that third man run, which is really hard to mark. So I actually like him in that free role, but if
But
you're
from
gonna
higher up or farther back?
I think you need to solidify your engine room and make sure the two that are sitting really know what they're doing. And I think because we continuously shift those two in midfield, maybe Sifu is suffering a little bit from that. He needs to be able to feel comfortable running into the box and having a more freer role. So for me, I like that. We just need to figure out who the two are going to be in behind, and I think it'll work out in the long run.
So would you take some of this $1 million we just acquired and go after a midfielder?
Yeah, I think we need a midfielder. I think we're missing something in there. I think we need somebody that can. I told you guys, Mark Anthony K. He's gonna be hard to replace. I'm telling you guys.
Like,
very
mark my
underrated.
words. Remember
He's
this.
Very underrated. I mean, him with Atuesta, and then sometimes when you bring Latif in, I just thought that midfield really worked. And with Sifu, I thought if you had a more box-to-box, somebody else that can play off of Atuesta, I just think we're missing balance there. But I like Sifu in that that free role. For me, that's what I like about him.
I think if you are going to change up your midfield two, which I don't know that they're going to do anytime soon.
Right.
But when you play in that kind of flat midfield two with Atuesta and Latif, they're not very complementary in the ways that you need them. Right. To your point, Mark Anthony K is the type of player in a flat midfield two that covers a lot of ground and can also be really he can be really expansive with his passing, whereas Latif not so expansive. Obviously, Edward has every pass in the book, but is not necessarily expansive when it comes to covering ground. So, to your point, the pieces are not exactly fitting into place the way they would where maybe if you had Edward and then two ahead of him, which is my point about the more, solidified role.
Right.
So you and I will have to just keep watching and see which one wins out, because I don't think they know exactly what is going to be best right now.
I think your idea is more short term to fix what's happening now, and mine is a little bit more long term. If we were to bring in somebody that could really, fill that Mark Anthony K spot.
Yeah. A passer.
Yeah, a passer.
So, Jess, do we have any more stock rising tonight?
No.
There we go. All right, so moving
Quick
on.
check, no.
Yep, moving on. That was our, 5 minutes of positivity. So back to some realism here. Jess, coming right back to you. Stock falling.
So I teased this just a little bit, but it's got to be Rossi. For me, love him, think he's a good player, but there's definitely something missing. The spark is definitely gone. The shine has rubbed off. And somebody needs to step up and help Carlos Vela.
Yes.
The last couple games, Carlos has not been himself, but he's still contributing to the goals. There needs to be somebody else there holding their own weight. And I just feel like that's usually Rossi, and he's not doing that anymore. And he's taking too many touches. Sometimes he seems a little bit selfish, and I'm just still feeling that point that there may be something on the horizon, maybe a move, maybe he's feeling like he needs to move on, and I feel like even LAFC needs to start thinking about that because we need to freshen it up.
He does. I mean, he does kind of look like he has a bit of a wandering eye. When he's out there, there are times when I'm just looking at him, he looks lost. He doesn't look like he knows where he's supposed to be, where he belongs. And, you know, maybe it is saying something by them continuing to go in the 5-3-2 direction, because that's not exactly creating a ton of opportunities for him. So is that the club almost sending a message?
Can I be honest? I feel you're really hitting on a key point, is that if you do want to play with two up top, there needs to be a different profile of somebody up there, and Diego Rossi is not that profile. They need somebody a little bit more dynamic, maybe somebody with a little bit more height that can hold up the ball, that Carlos Vela can play off of.
Right.
You know, he's not going to be running in behind. We know we need to conserve Carlos Vela's energy and his legs, you know what I mean? So something different needs to be in there.
Yeah. And Robert's in our chat asking for Diego to have a more defined role. I think the one that suffers the most in the 5-3-2 is Diego.
Right.
I think he's engaged because what I'm seeing is he's trying to play make too much. He's trying to do too much. He's always dropping back. And to your point, I don't know if you necessarily need a target man, but Diego has to. I don't know why Diego's not then running off of Carlos. He knows he can get in behind. His runs are not there. Maybe it's because he's so used to his running in behind is from outside to inside, and he's really good at running off that back shoulder. But through the middle, it's a little different for him. Carlos can play as a second striker, and he's very comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's always kind of played with players that will run off of him. And Carlos, look, that doesn't mean Carlos can't obviously get into spots. He did to score his goal. He can pick off areas, but Rossi just, his touches in the box game by game are ticking down lower and lower and lower. And Diego Rossi is not a guy that is the third or fourth pass on a goal. He is the last pass. He scores the goal, or maybe he's the second to last pass. But if you're using him 40 yards and then moving forward, it's too much. And I know he can play a little bit. He can play make a little bit, but it does him no favors.
Yeah, not to the level of Carlos Vela, who can play more like a 10. You're exactly right in that. Like, usually Diego Rossi is getting that final pass, and right now he is just playing like a deep lying playmaker, and that's just not his jam. It's not his jam.
Well, he's not going to eliminate anyone off the dribble.
He's not.
Like, out in space, Diego Rossi can go by you. He's with the ball about the same speed as he is without the ball. That's great. And so he can get an edge on you and he can go by guys. But when he drops into midfield, he's not going to eliminate a guy. And so they can kind of just sit back and go, okay, you're going to play 1-2. I'll either go with you or switch off. And it just does not do him any favors being away from the box. He needs to be in and around the box. Carlos can do that role. Diego in and around the box if they're going to continue to play with Diego in this too.
So off of that, Vince, what was your stock falling?
My stock falling was the connection of the team. And whether this is the formation, whether this is guys not knowing positionally where to be in the formation, or just the way the game played out. But there were so many times where I'm looking and they would go to attack and there's only 1-2 guys in the attack. And so many times where there's 6-7 guys sitting back that had just finished defending. It's just, there seems to be no cohesion. The spaces between the lines are just so big right now where it's actually really dangerous because I'm seeing them play 10 to 15 yard balls that are just horizontal balls. Oh, teams will love that all day because they'll just feast off that. They'll lay back and they'll try to win those balls, or they'll try to get close to the player that's going to win those balls, get on their back and force a turnover. And I just don't see the connection in this system right now. I think it could work, but I don't see them having it.
Boss in the chat wants to know why we can't use our 3 DPs at once.
That's a good question. I mean, we don't. I always like to say this: we don't know what we don't know. I don't know how fit Brian is. He's only played like 9 minutes since he came back. So who knows? And is he fully up to speed with the changes? Because when he left, we were a 4-3-3 team, 4-3-3, 4-3-3, and now we're not. And he's maybe not as fit. Plus, he's learning on the fly. I mean, he's only really been back for like a week and a half.
Yeah.
Right.
Not that that's an excuse, but I'm just trying to put out there. We only know what we kind of know from putting the pieces together.
Right. So with that, my stock falling is this team playing to the level of their competition. We've touched on that even pre-show and you know, a few minutes ago. But this team, week in and week out, they're just playing to the level of the competition. And the past several weeks, their matches, all of their opponents are below them in the standings. They're even watching these matches, they're clearly the superior team. They're just not playing like it. And I don't know what it's going to take for this team to realize that they are still talented. They are still LAFC. Like, play for the shield on your chest a little bit and play LAFC football. You know what I mean? Because week in and week out, and so maybe that's a good sign for, you know, the match next Wednesday, but they have a lot to figure out in the meantime.
This goes back to that locker room chat.
Yeah.
They need to sit down and really talk this through, even just amongst each other, trying to figure out what's going wrong. You know, I personally feel it's a confidence issue.
Okay.
I think the confidence is kind of seeping its way into, you know, making people second guess themselves. That's why there's too many touches. They're not moving comfortably. So if they can just maybe back each other and, like you said, try to play more for the shirt and go back to the basics, maybe that would really help. But I really do think there's something going on in terms of confidence for LAFC. It's worrying. It is.
Yeah. Well, it's a big moment. We keep saying, like, they're going to walk off this pitch feeling like they lost this match, and they should. But you have to then regroup and automatically think, like, what can we do? How can I be better in my positional sense and moving the ball along? And how can I be brave? Like, sometimes when you're feeling so down and you're like, how can we in these moments do better or finish our chances? Sometimes you got to say, I know that I'm not great in this moment, but I'm just going to put myself out there. Just put yourself out there.
Because you don't know if your decision in that moment could spark something for another player.
Yep.
You know, and you don't know what kind of momentum that's going to create, and it just takes one moment.
It really does. And I mean, you look at some of the saves that even like Romero made, that would have been a galvanizing moment for the team had they won the game. So I do think that there are moments that you can capitalize off of, but you do have to kind of get the entire job done. They need to figure out a way to go from the first minute to the 90th, get a full game under their belt where they're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing, and then see if they can reap the rewards. Because, I mean, Romero was making some really nice saves, and I really wish we could be talking about that.
Yeah.
But we're not. We're talking about drop points, you know, so that's something that they have to kind of talk about amongst each other.
Yeah, you have a 20-year-old goalkeeper that makes those 2 back-to-back saves in that moment. How you got to play for that guy?
I mean, I feel like, you know, to be honest here, like, this could be a stock rising. You know, like, let's get on the up and up with this conversation. Like, you know, he could be a stock rising for us.
Yeah, look, you know that you have a goalkeeper back there that is going to save some for sure goals. I would say, because honestly, both of their goals were really tough. I mean, no one's saving those. I mean, the Reynoso release and finish into the top corner is impossible. Like, he was just kind of like, okay, wow. And Reynoso's a DP. That's the level caliber player is. But again, to that point that you said, you've got a goalkeeper that's back there and he's making these saves. He's putting himself on the line. As defenders and everyone, front to back, you just got to look at yourself and go, look what this guy's doing. How can I be better?
Is there any weird level of, like, kind of almost mind games that he could have been playing on himself? I mean, you know, the opponent being Tyler Miller and the former goalie of LAFC with this team here. Is there just a weird level that, you know, he could have been feeling having that presence on the pitch?
I think just knowing, like, seeing how Thomas Romero plays, it probably just galvanized him. He's like, I want this guy that's on the other side to recognize, like, I'm the number one here now. And we saw Tyler try to come out. Yeah, we saw Tyler try to come out on Carlos's goal, which again, no fault really to Tyler. It's hard to defend Carlos 1v1, but he's like, I don't know where to be. Where's my arms? Like, where am I going to be here? He looks like the type of character that's a gamer.
Yeah, I mean, those were big moments that I wish we could talk about a little bit more, but you know, hopefully in the locker room they're able to talk about it and take that. They need to find something to hold on to, and we'll see what happes.
Yep, be real talk now.
Yeah,
real talk.
Yeah. So Vince, moving forward, what are your final thoughts tonight?
My final thoughts are kind of where we've kind of left it. Like, this team needs to gather together. They need to understand that the window is still open, so there could be comings and goings. So the guys that are either here now that really want to be here are going to have to say, like, this is us. This is the group. We got to get it done. We're the ones not getting it done. I don't think we've talked a lot about formations and tactics. We don't know exactly what is going on there at the training ground. And sometimes I don't like to get too into tactics, because once the whistle blows, it's like the Mike Tyson quote. Once somebody gets punched in the face, then you find out if they have a plan. So these players have to start acting that way. Like, the coaches have worked with you all week.
Yeah.
They've put you in the positions that they think are best for you. Now you have to just take this game and get it done. And this was the moment.
It goes back to the trust and the confidence that you've been preaching since, pregame and postgame.
Yeah.
But Jess, your final thoughts on this one.
I would just say they need to let this go.
Right.
Let it go. Let it go. They
Oh,
need to
look
let
at
it-
that.
They do. They
I
need to let
dance,
it
she
go.
sings. Vince, what are you bringing to the table? I'm just kidding.
Come back to me.
brain,
Come back to me.
Your brain.
I mean, just get in that locker room, talk about what you need to talk about, let it go. And from a coaching standpoint, I would just say maybe Bob and the team need to figure out a system that makes these guys feel a little bit more comfortable on their baseline.
Right.
They're lacking confidence, and the last thing you want to do is add more tactical shifts and new
Right.
formations and switch things around when the team is not confident. Maybe go back to a 4-3-3 for a couple games. Maybe just keep it simple. Maybe not make so many changes during the game, and just see if you can try to get something back, because I do feel like there's some changes that he's making that I think the team can do, but not under the stress that they're under at the moment. So
Right.
just keep it simple, Bob. That's it.
Right. And I mean, I think our buddy Ted Lasso says it best. We just all need to be a goldfish after this one and move on. That's all we can do. With that being said, we're moving forward. And also want to give a shout out to Dark Frames. He's watching from New York right now, guys. Staying up
Yo, dude,
late
it's late,
with
bro.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah, like West Coast after dark.
Yeah.
What? So shout out to you. Thank you for staying up with us. We really appreciate it, as well as everyone that tuned in. Thank you. Thank you for chiming in the chat. Robert, all you guys, we really, really appreciate you. Signing off here, I'm Haley Graves. This is Jessica, and this is Vince. We're thanking you again for joining us. But don't forget, we'll be back on Friday with so much more insight, so much more to talk about. We really appreciate all of you. Again, we also, on Tuesday, the Max and Vince podcast. I'm sure that they will have a lot to talk about. And then next Wednesday, virtual tailgate. Again, like we've mentioned, really big matchup coming up. With that being said, we just want to thank you all for joining us. And this is the 110 instant reaction.
Instant reaction show
That's
after
what
the
we did. Instant reaction post-game show. And, we're going to wave goodbye
Look at that awesome shot.
to our partners with Adidas.
Thanks, Adidas. Bye-bye.